Hey everyone, Dan McKenzie here with McKenzie Law Firm in Denver, Colorado. We are an estate planning, estate administration, and small business counsel law firm. And today I wanted to talk about the difference between several types of trusts that frequently get formed when a revocable living trust, when the owner of revocable living trust passes away. Now you might be thinking, if you have a revocable living trust, that, why would more trusts be created? I've got this trust. If I pass away, it says my assets go to my spouse or my kids, and that's kind of it. And that actually is usually not what happens. Usually, first, there's a period of time when someone passes away where we do have to do some administrative tasks, such as closing accounts, collecting assets, finding and collecting insurance, ending subscriptions, shutting down utilities, cleaning out a house, selling the house, and then maybe most importantly, identifying any taxes that are due and making sure that all that is wrapped up correctly with the IRS. And so we have this administrative period first, and that's really important. And then we get to the end of that period, we've got all that stuff wrapped up, and then the next question is, okay, now what happens? We've got this pile of stuff left over, we've got instructions about who to give it to. Usually those instructions do involve taking those assets, putting them into one or more other trusts. And so this can get confusing. There's a lot of different types of trusts out there actually, and there's a lot of different terms for the same trusts, and just depending on the attorney's preference for how they label things, two different sounding things might actually be the same thing. So you might hear the term credit, shelter trust, bypass trust, family trust, marital trust, Q-tip trust, spouse trust, just all kinds of things, and these are actually, a couple of these terms are actually describing the same thing. So like I say, it really gets confusing sometimes. But in this video, I thought it might be helpful to compare a couple different kinds of trusts that are frequently formed by revocable trusts, just as seeing how they work differently as opposed to each other might help you understand where they fit in with each other. So one trust that is frequently set up after a revocable living trust owner passes away is the family trust, and then another one might be what's called the common trust. And so the family trust is actually for the benefit of the survivor, the surviving spouse, and then also for the person who passed away, their kids. And so the family trust can be used, and a lot of times the spouse is the trustee of that trust. A lot of times they are the primary beneficiary of the trust, but that trust frequently instructs that the assets inside that trust can be used either for the spouse or for kids, and there's not really any specific limitations on it. The spouse does not need to wait until, the family does not need to wait until that surviving spouse passes away until the kids can get money. So it's helpful there, because sometimes spouses, of course, frequently they outlive each other by decades, and so if you mean to get assets to your kids, you might need an instruction saying, hey, you don't need to wait until the spouse passes away also before my kids can get stuff. So that is the family trust. And the other trust that I mentioned is the common trust. And the common trust is usually once both spouses have passed away and we're leaving assets to kids. A lot of times, if the kids are minors when the trust first got set up, what we will say is, if we pass away and the kids are still minors, or at least my youngest kid is still a minor, put all the assets into one trust for all the kids. And the reason for that is just that we want the trustee to be able to handle that one common pot of assets for all the kids and take care of their needs as they see fit, just like you do as a parent. When your kids are little, you're not necessarily like keeping track of things and trying to make sure each kid gets exactly the same thing. You just take care of them as they need. If one kid needs medical care, they get it. If one kid needs a tutor for school, they get it. If one kid goes to a camp that the other kids don't go to, we're not making sure we get payments out to those other kids to equalize for that. So a big point of this is just to make sure that the trustee can make sure that the youngest kid gets all the same benefits and opportunities as the oldest kid. What we don't want to have happen is a situation where the trustee spends all the money on the oldest kid. Let's say the oldest kid gets into a really expensive college, for example, like some sort of Ivy League school, and that would cost potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars to send this kid to the school, and doing so would actually deplete the trust. And so if the second or later kids got into that same school, the trust couldn't also pay for them. Well, in that situation, you don't want the trustee to spend all the money on the oldest kid, and then the younger kids come up and it's like, well, we don't have any money left over. So having one pot of money lets the trustee kind of see how that's working out, and just make sure, again, that those youngest kids are having the same opportunities. Once those kids reach adulthood, or at least the youngest kid gets to adulthood, and you can kind of define what you mean by adulthood. It might be college graduation, it might be a certain age. You actually can specify that. But once the kids do get to adulthood, usually as parents, we do start to kind of try and keep things fair. So, if you're going to spend money on one kid's wedding, you might feel like, well, I also need to spend money on another kid's wedding. If I'm going to help one kid with a down payment on a house, I need to make sure that the other kid also gets help on that kind of thing. So usually at that point, we will say, after they've all reached adulthood, let's go ahead and split this out into several different trusts, one for each of the kids, and we don't have this common trust anymore. And so hopefully that helps kind of let you know what the difference is between the family trust and the common trust. Like I say, these are just two of potential options that you might have in a revocable living trust. But I'm going to be making and posting other videos about different other combinations, and so please be sure to look for those. Hope this is helpful. If you want further dialogue about this or any other aspect of trust planning or other estate planning, we're happy to have that conversation with you. So we're in Denver, 303-578-2745. And again, we are the McKenzie Law Firm. Thanks for watching.